All right. Yep. At least a few minutes, a couple minutes early, so that we can let YouTube get those notifications out and do it. Check, real quick. Yes, welcome back to another live stream on the channel where healing and spiritual growth are front and center. Yes, we're going to dive into part four. And whew, this is quite a testimony. So let's let the fellow survivor come on in as well. Going to join us today to help fill in the blanks. Yep. So check that. Yeah. All right. Okay. Making sure I wasn't sitting on the mute button like I did one time during the podcast. Yeah, this little thing. Anywho, all right. Yep, well, I'll learn new thing here and there. So, yeah, I hope everybody is having a blessed day, a blessed week. Yes. All right. Hi, John. Yes. Hello. Quite, quite the testimony you got there. Boy, I tell you, definitely, like I told you during the email, as I was reading over it, because I remembered some of the stuff from when you sent it to me originally. I glanced through it real quick, but I went deeper. Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yeah, to you too as well. Uh, it read like I did. I felt like I was watching a Lifetime movie, and I was like, wow. All of the behaviors of this one definitely very much not just psychopathic but sociopathic as well. um but definitely you nailed it on a lot of the red flags yourself, with the triangulation and with the you know ruining your birthday and that kind of thing, and the holiday stuff like that. That these narcissistic abusers definitely are well known for. And I don't know if you know about the statistic thingy. Yeah, we don't. I don't put a whole lot of stock in numbers, so to speak, but we do know that during the and this time of year, okay, where the holiday seasons or what have you, that a lot of domestic violence increases. And we know this. It's well known. A lot of people know this. And so that's often why we can associate that with the fact that these narcissistic abusers, they do all these crazy making things to try and ruin it, because the holidays take the attention off of them. That's what I want everybody to remember, is that the all of the activities and festivities or what have you, that some of us don't partake in anymore. But just I'm putting that out there. But the ones who do is because, I mean, let's face it, you got kids. It is what it is. Or you've got your neighbors and they got kids, what have you. It's for the kid. Okay, it really is supposed to be. All right. But anyhow, that's why it gets the attention off of them, because we know that a lot of the narcissistic abusers, if we, okay, like you did, fellow survivor, want to go and visit, or include some of your family, your friends, what have you, into, let's say, the birthday, and then the narcissistic abuser can't stand that, because remember, they want to have the control as well. So yes, big time. They want to have that control and then all the attention on them, because they know that if it's your birthday, the attention is going to be on you, all right, rather than them. So that's the underlying thing right there, and they can't stand that. But they're really good at putting on a show that they are, that they do care, what have you, and it always comes across as fake. So we know this now. All right, but yes. Okay, let's see what we funny thing. Oh, yeah, Lifetime movie, and yeah, it does. About those types. Yeah, yeah. When you think about the drama shows, and you think about yeah, romance. I don't want to call them romance horror movies, but it's like the Lifetime movies that come out with the stalking. And mind y'all, yes, I have a swivel chair. It's just one of those things. So, anywho, the like it's a cyber stalker or any other kind of abusive tactic. Right? So we realize that they emulate what they see on TV, and because they don't have their own personality, they don't know who. Again, they don't know who they are in Christ, so they don't have their own persona. So they take on other people's personas in to um, I wouldn't say create, but to cause all of that they do. Okay, all of the shenanigans, things like that, because they saw it on TV. Kind of reminds me of the old saying a long time ago when the internet came out. It said that you got to be careful because you can't go around thinking that just because you saw it on the internet that makes it 100% true. You have to do some digging, research, things like that. Also, well, the narcissistic abuser, that same concept applies with them to the television. They think that when they're watching a movie or something like that, they don't realize. It's like some of them know it's fantasy, but a lot of them don't realize that, and they just figure that that's real, and that because they've heard stories elsewhere or whatever, blah blah blah, and so they think that it's okay to behave that way because they saw an actress or an actor behave that way, and that actor and actress was just acting. That's just for entertainment, right? So that's why we often realize that the narcissistic abusers, when they continue to engage in those same, shenanigans, those bad behaviors, wicked behaviors over and over again, they can be entertaining if you want to be entertained like that. But it's like, no, eventually, like you did, fellow warrior, there at the end, you were like, enough is enough, and that's what happened. As we continue to grow and mature, and we see these behaviors on a regular basis from a narcissistic abuser, and it gets to that point, it's like that boiling point almost. Like, you know what? We've seen what we need to see, and we're like, no more. Enough is enough, and that's exactly what happened. Well, with this situation. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. All right, and I'm gonna peek over here every once in a while, John, to see where you help to fill in the blanks. Okay, because there's a lot in this one, and we did not know how long this was going to be. So God stepped in and said, "Take another business trip." I was like, "Okay." When God speaks, we obey. All right. So this was okay. July, October, November. Okay, so this was just a little over a year and a couple of months. All right, 2015 into 2016. Okay, and I like how you. I just now caught that. I dove right into the testimony, but the title, fellow warrior. It said, "My sort of almost girlfriend, covert narc." You'll understand why he said that here in just a little bit. But yeah, okay, 14. Okay, so 14 to 15 months ish. Okay, that's long enough. That's a pretty good amount of time though too. Just so you know, it really truly is. All right, so and you hit the nail on the head with this one. Is that the narcissistic abuser? They're looking for targets who are not just naive, but they're looking for targets who are vulnerable. Okay, I know you use the word weak, but we realize that we weren't targeted because of any weakness. We were targeted because we're very strong. All right, they see that, but it's more that we're vulnerable because something has taken place in our life. Okay, whether it be the loss of a loved one, so we're grieving a little bit, and so they can sense that spiritual energy. But I know what you meant. And so they definitely do. That's what they look for. And I'll never forget. I remember thinking after about the third or fourth abusive relationship. Okay, I was like, what is it? Do we have vulnerable stamped on our forehead? And pretty much, that's a metaphor, but pretty much we do, because each time we would come out of a toxic situation or an abusive relationship, or workforce, okay, same thing, or family. It doesn't matter where the abuse is being dished out. We come away from it, and we have to go through the acceptance, and we go through the grieving, and it's usually because we have a mourning, MOURN process that we go through. We set off a particular type of spiritual energy with that. And it's like, so these narcissistic abusers, that's what they are going around, they're sniffing for that. Okay, they're looking for anybody who is a little bit, I don't want to say like down and out, but who is, in some sort of a vulnerable, grievous or mourning state. Okay, they're looking for that. All right, because then we realize that, okay, that's why they come in. And remember, though, before they actually approach us, they study us. Okay, that's how come she was able to get a decent read, or knew kind of how to put on a good show for you. Okay, because somehow she knew about your never having a girlfriend before, kind of thing. From you. And of course, I know you let her know that, but she obviously has sensed that or knew that somehow beforehand, so that she could put together a fantastic movie in her head, which is exactly what she did, right? That she could carry out and stuff. So let's see what else we got. Okay, anyone watching? Let me go ahead and put this up real here, right? Okay, yeah. What our fellow warrior is sharing here. For anyone watching, probably spend an average of 30 to 40 hours a week with this person over time. Okay, that is a lot of time right there. And 2 months went on. Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification as well, just to kind of help y'all put this in perspective, the amount of time and energy that went into what we're about to uncover here. And okay, so let's share with everybody what else he's adding. I'm just going to do it this way. This would be easier to let everybody know. Honestly felt, yeah, most recent. Oh, well, yeah. Okay, see, that was the part 1 that we covered with the psychopath neighbor. Right, exactly. All right. So there was something. Was there something stamped on your forehead? That's funny. Okay, see, we all have some. Uh-huh. And got to appreciate the sense of humor. God has a sense of humor. Okay, well, okay, and this is classic, you all. It often starts. This is another reason why we want to be mindful of social media as well, because a lot of times that's how it starts. Okay, because see, this one, the almost girlfriend, narcissistic abuser. Okay, our fellow warrior, they were friends on Facebook first. So that would be where, there you go. That would be where she would have been watching you, studying you a little bit beforehand. Okay, that would be one way. All right, so somehow she was able to gather enough information to pull this off long enough, before you realized, and you ran into some other people who also knew her, who were telling you things and stuff like that. And this is going to illustrate a lot of times what we all went through, because we were smitten, we were being love bombed. So we would ignore when someone else would try to tell us about this person, especially if they knew them or have known them for a long period of time, and we will easily dismiss it because, wait, but this person's being so good and so nice to us, that what they're telling us, that creates that cognitive dissonance, the two conflicting thoughts, and so remember, God is not the author of confusion. Okay, so I'm going to throw some scripture in here and there where it fits with this. Okay, so our fellow warrior. Right, with that, okay, he had lost. Okay, he lost to his mom in 2015, just a little bit before. Okay, and he met the narc for a few months on Facebook, not too long before all of this starts to unfold. And the narc and our fellow warrior had 2 mutual friends. Okay. So, and the narc's profile showed no relationship, showed single. right? And she was one of the girls that was, well, what, okay, what a lot of guys would use the term super hot. Okay, we get that, all right? And then the other word that goes with that, and okay, good looking, of course. All right, and she was at the time 32, our fellow warrior 41, just to give a little bit of perspective here. And it turned out that she only lived a little under 5 miles away. Okay. All right. And so the narc presented herself. She was a caretaker, cleaning person for the people she lived with, the people she was living with. She was a caretaker and cleaning person like that. She also did child care, watching, and all things that are considered righteous and good, right? Okay, so she seemed like a really, really, really good person. More so than just being, right, because we know the outward appearance that's not the top priority. I mean, sure, when two people want to get together or whatever, yes, I mean, it's just natural, get some level of attraction, obviously, but it's more about, okay, what, where their heart, it's like, what do they, how they present themselves, things like that, and only time will always tell if what they are showing us is real and genuine and all of that. All right, so the fellow warrior just lost his mom, and after he had already lost his dad a few years before that, so it was a tough time for the fellow warrior. And I know it's a little belated, obviously, but let's offer our condolences to the fellow warrior. That is definitely tough. We know, and we get that. And so the narcissistic abusers picked up on that. Okay, and because that's what they'll do. And and when you said that she utilized that, you're spot on. All right. And so, yeah. Oh, and that last part that we did about the con artist, yes, fellow warrior. Okay, I got it. In 2010 with the, okay, with the money he conned you out of and stuff like that. Okay, so that was right before your dad died, or right around that time. Okay, if I'm understanding that correctly. Okay. All right, yep, hit that con artist. That's what I'm saying. These narcissistic abusers, that's what they're looking for. They're sniffing out whether or not you've had a recent death in the family or some kind of other. We don't really want to say that, not necessarily a traumatic experience, but it's definitely a time, a period where we're not 100%, so to speak, during that grieving. And so, absolutely, yeah, there you see in the pattern here. It's all about the pattern of what these narcissistic abusers are looking for. So this girl, okay, so because you had your dad and then your mom just a few years later, because that's not, I mean, when you stop and think about it, it's not really a whole lot of time. Okay, so now you're dealing with that altogether, and so that's it. The female narc, it like kind of zeroed in on our fellow warrior as an easier target during this time. All right, so it was the narc's birthday. Okay, so now we're gonna jump forward a little bit. Okay, it was her birthday. All right, now remember they met on Facebook for a little bit. They had mutual friends, so that she was able to gather enough data, and obviously she would know about the passing of your parent. Okay, all right, so now it's her birthday, and so only a few months after. Okay, so a few months after y'all met on Facebook, it's her birthday. That correct? Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. So okay, that's several years, and oh, the age is, yeah, 32 and 41. Yeah, that's what yeah, you got that right. For putting in perspective. Okay, for the parents, and okay, yeah, 2009, 2010. Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that. confirming that, if you will. All right, so now we're back to this current narc's birthday. All right, she always had, okay, so the narc always had 100 guys, he says 6 times a day, all trying to get with her. Yep, typical. And she probably loved every minute of it, no doubt. Every narc, that's the way they are. Right. And she often had pics with famous or semi famous people. Okay. That is classic that narcs will do, because it kind of ties into one case study I did where he tried to tell me that all you got to do is get a pic and to make it believable. And I was like, okay, okay, yeah. So he could say that he knew so and so, whatever. And that's a lot of that is very, very common for narcissistic abusers. They just go attend an event or whatever and somehow find a way to get a photo with a well known public figure. Let's just say that. All right. And the guys that took her to events. We'll get into more on that story here too. How narcs will weasel their way in. So you always want to be on the lookout for that. Okay, so fellow warrior decided it was a week after her birthday, but you were finally able to go ahead and take her out for her birthday. Nothing wrong with that. And she wanted to go to a very expensive place, and you figured, well, it's her birthday, okay. And a fellow warrior thought at that time, was like, well, I can't afford her if this is all the time. Right. Okay. She said, yeah, this place for lunch, it's only X amount per person. And it's like, wow. Okay. Spending over that much on a lunch. Okay. Turned out it was only a lesser amount than what she was. Yeah. See, that's how narcissistic abusers, how they blow things out of proportion. So they'll say that it's bigger or better than it actually is, even if it is still more than what you would normally spend on a particular meal. I mean, seriously. Okay, so but after that, every time he saw her, it was just, usually just something from a fast food joint or whatever. So it's kind of like I'm guessing she kind of sensed that if she tried to play the charade of wanting to go to expensive restaurants all the time, that she would not even be able to lure you in. Somehow she knew that. Somehow. Okay. All right. So. All right, and then she mentioned many future things. Okay, she started that future faking, talking about that y'all were going to do this or going to do that together. That's classic. Yep, classic, classic, classic. All right, and that's what got you. That's what got the fellow warrior. And that's what gets all of us usually in the beginning. All the future things that we would do. And so the fellow warrior figured he was in, that they were going to be boyfriend, girlfriend kind of thing. And then the following week, the narc had the fellow warrior take her to the airport while he worked. So he worked. Yet she conned you into working it out with your boss so that you could leave and go run an errand and do whatever for her. All right. So let me go ahead and catch up on your comments to fill in the blanks. Okay. Okay. All right. So there we go. There's clarification here that the birthday was the first actual meeting. Okay. All right. Okay. After the week of, okay. Gotcha. All right. So Facebook, and then you actually meet in person for her birthday. All right. Okay. Thank you for that. And thought about it at the time. Right. Okay. Yeah, the meals were, we talked, Well, that's the important point. Why I mentioned that when they got it in their mind that it's an expensive place, more so than what we would usually go to or you would usually, whatever. Okay, as far as preferences, and they always will make it sound or seem way more, bigger or more glamorous or glitzy or whatever than it actually is. So that way it's part of their head games. I mean, when you stop and think about it, it really is. And then they go back to, because they knew that she knew she was not going to be able to trap you, if she kept that up. All right. So she found out our fellow warrior was over 40 and never had a girlfriend. Okay. And that would have to be somehow through the Facebook connection. That's the only thing I can think of. That's how y'all met, and you have two mutual friends on Facebook. Had to be that. Somehow she knew, because you would never talk to her directly before. So that's what I mean by they study their targets. That's what we mean by that. And so the narc basically told our fellow warrior, said, "Oh, I'm going to teach you all kinds of things." And so she almost implied that our fellow warrior was actually going to get lucky. Okay. And that she would, teach him and help him with that. Okay. Almost even as though it could be her. Right. Trying to get in there and plant those seeds. All right. And there were times that the narc had our fellow warrior sleep over next to her and nothing ever happened. Okay. And you really dodged a bullet with that. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, fellow warrior, you really dodged a bullet with the fact that you made it out of this one without ever yeah, there you go. Seriously. And so, okay, you were saying that you're desperate, you were a little bit desperate. Then she would have sensed that. That's a spiritual energy. So if you were feeling a little desperate at that time because of your age, whatnot, that she could sense that, and she was toying with it. So exactly what she was doing. That would be the red flag. Because if they sensed that you were feeling kind of desperate to have a girlfriend and to settle down and to all of that, they can sense that through that spiritual energy. She picked up on it. Absolutely. You realized later at the time, there we go. Yeah. Later at the time, if she had some fun things with me, she would have truly had. That's right. Exactly. If it had gone the way you were hoping that was going to go, it would have. And so we'd be thanking our Heavenly Father for that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So she knew you didn't and went through all of that. And she picked up on the desperation because of your age and not ever having a girlfriend before. Okay. And you spent 40 to 50 hours per week together. But 3 months into their somewhat relationship, or situationship, if you will, about 3 months in, the narc told our fellow warrior, said, "Oh, most people don't know this, but I do have, but she does have a boyfriend, and that he's a millionaire." Okay. And she told the fellow warrior that her quote unquote boyfriend, imaginary by the way, boyfriend, his dad was a pro golfer. Okay. And so the fellow warrior even asked the narc if she meant as a licensed or on tour, and the narc said on tour. And so the fellow warrior did a little bit of fact checking on the name that narc gave him, and never found that name. Well, the reason you never found that name is because, like I just said, it was an imaginary. She made it up. That was part of her fantasy that she was trying to carry out in her own mind. Excuse me for a second. But yeah, that's why you weren't able to find that name under the list of known, okay, because it didn't exist. That's why. Only in her mind, only in the narc's mind. Yes. Hello, Gear Shot from Belgium. Welcome. Grateful to y'all for you know what? Let's say a huge thank you to all y'all that take some time out of your day to join us via a live or on the replay, because we are covering something with a fellow warrior and testimony on some more red flags on narcissistic abusers' behaviors and things like that. All right, so now after he realized that there's no that golfer whatever didn't exist, and so therefore her imaginary millionaire boyfriend doesn't exist either, or didn't, still doesn't, I'm pretty sure. These narcs, they're delusional, they really are. So even when the narc was telling the fellow warrior all of this, she kept making it sound like the millionaire boyfriend doesn't give her the time she needs and cares about more about other things, etc., even though she kept single on her Facebook profile. Yeah. And the reason, single on the profile, because she was. But she, that was a projection. It was her that, it's the narcissistic abusers are the ones who don't want to take the time to actually build a meaningful relationship with anyone. They don't want to take the time to really get to know on an intimate level their person that they want to be with. Okay, they don't. The narcissistic abusers do not want to have that kind of connection because they don't know what to do with it. And so she would basically, because she created that fantasy in her head, but she was actually telling on herself. And that's what was happening right there. And there's another incident later on where she actually definitely does that, like trying to say that it's that quote unquote boyfriend that she got who never gives her the time of day, kind of thing, blah, blah, blah. All right. And that was her telling on herself. Okay. And the narc, had a lot of pictures with just her and another guy, and a lot of them were with different guys. And you're correct, fellow warriors, they were probably just all ones who were giving her stuff she needed, money-wise or connection-wise. And that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You hit the nail on the head with that one. Absolutely. So, yes, the narcissistic abusers want to get a picture with anyone who is giving them what would be considered, free rides or freebies or handouts or what have you. Okay. When we want to get a picture with someone that we genuinely work with or care about or whatever, it's very different. Very, very, very different. Okay. Or we get a picture with somebody for marketing purposes. Now there is that too. So all about that discernment, right? But this one definitely was only getting pictures. But you got to remember something too. She wasn't doing that, okay, for not for free. Okay, she was not doing that for free. That I can tell you that. Okay. She also had one guy, stage manager for a popular genre of music, their venue associated with it. I'm trying to leave certain details out for the protection of integrity, okay, for our fellow warrior here. All right, so I'm being very intentional by not naming names or mentioning the actual cities and things like that, because most importantly is the narcissistic abuser behavior. That's what the most important thing is. All right, so there's this guy who was that stage manager for a couple of this well-known place for a particular music industry, and he was in his early to late 50s, all right, and much older than her, and the narc talked him and many others up. Yeah, that's what they do. They do, putting them on a pedestal, idolatry. Remember that. Yeah. Okay, also talk bad about them at the same time. That's what they do. That's where the sociopathic behavior comes in. All right, let me see what. All right, I'll talk about the stage manager here. Fellow warriors, adding something. Okay, talk about how putting him on a pedestal. Right. It was that desperation thing that got in the way. Absolutely. That's why we lose that demon of desperation. We learn real quick to get rid of it. Okay, but that sociopathic behavior where she's putting them on a pedestal, propping them up, making them seem like it's more than what they truly are. Okay, and then turning around and talking bad about them. Okay, when they're not around. Okay, clearly that's hypocrisy also. So we always pay attention to that. If they're, putting somebody up on a pedestal and then talking crap behind their back, talking bad about them, okay, there's your contradiction right there. That double-minded man, unstable in all his ways, right? Yes. So that's a lot of that. That's hypocrisy. Yes. All right, and she would do it absolutely. That's classic for narcissistic abusers. They would do that even with their own quote unquote friend. And the other thing we learn is that they don't necessarily have friends. They want frenemies. That's really the only way I could put it. All right, so the guy always gave backstage access as she was a huge fan. Okay, the narc was a huge fan, and so she got to meet all of the band members. That's what I'm guessing out here. What to met all of them. So this guy actually played backup guitar for some band in the 60s and 70s. Da 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 da. Okay, right. So she was making her narc connection, things like that. To see what she could get, and just to narcissistic abusers like to live vicariously through the successes of others, and that's exactly what she was doing here. It's not just idolizing, okay, idolatry, but she was, putting them on a pedestal, talking bad about them, putting them on a pedestal, but she was trying to live vicariously through their successes. You see, that's how narcissistic abusers do it. Like a narcissistic abuser parent likes to live vicariously through their children's successes. Absolutely. Yeah. That's right. So 2 weeks after the fellow warrior. Okay, so just a couple of weeks after you met this narc, she wants you to drive her to the airport, and you did. Okay. Yep. That's how she was boundary testing. You know what I'm saying? She was trying to see how much she could get you to bow down to her demand. You know what I'm saying? Trying to see, and also testing to see if you had any boundary. So, like, whereas now you would know if somebody tried to do that, and you're like, you're at work, you would now know to tell them no, because that's that boundary. Because the narcissistic abusers will do little shenanigans like that to try and see if they can get you fired. Never forget that. Everything they try to do is steal, kill, destroy. Yep, just like the enemy. All right, so the narcissistic abuser sends our fellow warrior a lot of messages, and she's always making you feel special, insanely special. Okay, and she opened up to what the narc opened up to seem. The key word here is she opened up to what seemed okay, like a lot of issues. She was being vulnerable and crying a little. That was all part of the act. Okay, that was all part of her act. And that tugged at your heartstring. So naturally, what would you do? There you go. You be there for her, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So, and of course, it was calculated. Okay, when he talks about um what the narc abuser did was sending the fellow warrior messages about explicit body parts. Okay, in a way that was the seducing spirit. Absolutely, 100%. She was trying to she was trying to plant seeds in there. All right, so yeah, because she knew of that vulnerability, the other vulnerability that you had, which is not really a vulnerability, actually, it's a blessing. Okay, it's a blessing to have. All right, so it was very calculated on her part. All right, she was doing all of that on purpose, right? Exactly, to make you think that you two would hook up and that you would get lucky. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put it that way. And again, still never happened. Right. So the narc also would suddenly go silent early on. Not angry at that point, but like the fellow warrior was suddenly not hear from her for a couple of days. And yes, the fellow warrior said it was probably her testing him. Spot on again. You nailed another one on the head. That's exactly right. So she started testing to see if you would tolerate that. Testing to see if you would come chasing her. Okay, that's what she was looking for. She wanted to see by not talking to you for a couple of days, see if you would come chasing after her. That's what the narcissist, when they do that, especially early on, it is a test. They want to see if they can get you to come chasing them. And so this narcissistic abuser, the second time the narc asked fellow warrior for lunch, it was, I'm not sure what B-dubs is. So if you can clarify that for us, fellow warrior, that would be great. Okay, so the narc tells the fellow warrior to go into the basement and they'll eat on her bed. See, again, she's messing with you. Yep. Trying to get in there and continue to make you think. That's all part of that love bombing, and that trying to lure you in to see. Okay, Buffalo, but B-dubs. Okay, Buffalo Wild Wings. I did not know that people call some people call it that. Thank you. Okay, but I do know that place. Thank you. We've got that in other states as well. Okay. All right. And again, because you, the fellow warrior, got to thinking, was like, well, I'm actually on this girl's bed. So that's exactly what she's trying to do. Get in there and make you think. Yep. And so, of course, you would be wowed. And then at the time, after that, a few days later, he and the narc finally during the day hung out on the bed talking, and she had me touch her neck hair, blah, blah, blah. She got started doing the teasing, just kind of enough to, that's trying to seduce, that enough of the, to get it more in there. You see how, it's not that she moved really fast, by the way, but it seemed like it was slow and subtle, and how she was doing that. It's just like trying to play with you, okay? Got to remember. Oh, by the way, fellow warrior, this one, after with the story or whatever, that's Jezebel. Okay, she is a Jezebel. Okay, so she was definitely teasing you, testing you, all of that. So when you said that you picked up on that she was just testing. Yep, spot on again. All right, and then the narc would always talk about how sad it was that the fellow warrior lost his parents, and she would do that every time she introduced the fellow warrior to a friend or family member. Okay, she was using your story to get attention, with at the same time trying to see if she could make you feel guilty about it. That was a very subtle way of guilt tripping, trying to guilt trip. trying like to make you feel like it was your fault somehow, or that you played in kind of role. But and as far as I can tell, luckily that did not work. So good, kudos. Okay, because that's exactly what the narcs do. Is they'll use the like the sad or let's just say anything like that against their target, like in front of other people, not only to get attention and make themselves appear as though they genuinely care, but it's through that tone of voice when they do it that will pick up on the fact they're actually trying to guilt trip their target for let's just say the death of a loved one, trying to make the target think that it was the target's fault somehow. Right? And you'll pick up on that. And the reason I know that because hello, you're not alone. Okay. All right. So I was, and so that's why I know about the tone. I was able to pick up on the tone. The spiritual ears got perked up. I was like, I see what they're trying to do. Trying to make me feel bad for grandpa dying. And I was like, okay, that's not going to work. All right. So that's what they were doing. And so the fellow warrior said the narc would talk to others, talk others up, while at the same time she would make them sound downright terrible. Right. And friends or family, of course. And you were picking, and the fellow warrior got tricked in always picking up stuff for her. Like she one time when the narc had the fellow warrior over, okay, and she needed to go do something for just 5 minutes. And okay, and the narc asked the fellow warrior to watch a couple of dogs, okay, while she went and got to go do something else. Just 5 minutes, right? Here's classic narcissistic abuser behavior. They'll tell you just 5 minutes, but then she's gone for over an hour and a half. There you go. Taking advantage of, okay? Taking advantage of the fact that, you agreed to babysit the dog, which my guess, if I'm not mistaken, it sounds like she was the one that was supposed to be babysitting the dog for somebody. Or were they hers? So that, but down clearly she wanted to dump. That's what narcissistic abusers do. They're lazy. They want to, if they've got some sort of a responsibility, they want to dump it onto someone else. They don't want to do it. They don't want to take care of it themselves. So, okay. So let's see what else. Okay. Didn't feel that she was guilt tripping you. Okay. Right. At the time. It was before that. But okay, the math fell off. Let's see. I'll go ahead and let everybody else see on that. But that's my guess, that she was supposed to be responsible for watching the dogs herself. Didn't want to, just dumped it off on you, the fellow warrior. All right, so all right, and it was interesting. Okay, here's the other thing. The fellow warrior found it interesting that this narc lived in the house of a former employer. You see, former employer who died, or let's just say who had passed on when he was 90. And she was so happy his nearly 70-year-old son stayed often at the house and let her stay there. Okay, so he let her, the narc, stay for at least 2 years after the passing of his father. And our fellow warrior got the sense that the son really didn't want to do it, but somehow, the narcissistic abuse, remember, they can be, what we call that, not just, charming. They really can. Okay. And so it started with her cleaning the house for them, and she would take care of them, the one who passed, and then the family fell in love with her. So they allowed her a semi-bedroom in the walkout basement, and the fellow warrior said that he got sent. Okay, now he knows. Okay, now he knows that she was definitely manipulating them to stay there. Absolutely, 100% spot on. You hit the nail on the head there again. All right, even though she did clean and watch it for, watch the house, house sit, so to speak. And it was a strange playing, a strange setup to for the fellow warrior, and it definitely I'm telling you, it sounds like a Lifetime movie. Right, and so she cooked. Okay, so she would cook for the son of the father who passed away. Right, so definitely triangulation. Then the fellow warrior put that down there. He realized it, what was going on. And because later the narc would talk about how he is the cause of his father's death and that the son did the wrong thing. Ties right back into what I was just letting you know about when she was trying to use the passing of your parent as a subtle guilt trip. She did it with this guy right there. Okay? Yep, trying to make it, trying to make, there you go. And the narc often said how great the son was to her. And one time in the car, the narc was trying to tell our fellow warrior that he was responsible for his own father's death because of the decision he made with his family at the doctor's. Okay, so now she wants to go ahead and try and provide some false excuse with his family at the doctor's, and the family didn't do what she wanted. But it definitely, yes, fellow warrior, when you said it seems a bit odd, and you say the son of all people, there's the son of the father who passed, of all people would want what is best. Basic human decency, right? And so she made all of that up. And it would not surprise me that with her psychopathic tendencies, that she was just deflecting. Never know. With narc, that's always possible. Okay? We do know that a lot of narcissistic abusers do kill pets. They do kill animals. And that's that's on the checklist. That's not secret. It's out there. There's that sociopathic and the psychopathic checklist kind of thing. All right. I'll let y'all do your own research on that. Okay, so yep, definitely. That's the sense I got. I was like, okay, she was deflecting, definitely. And the fellow warrior also noticed that the narc would, often either get, nanny job, cleaning job, or this or that. What that is, the narcissistic abuser would get only certain jobs that would make them look like a good person, and also one that are the only things that they know how to do. Because remember, narcissistic abusers, they get to a certain point, they don't want to learn anything new. So they're just going to continue to repeat the same patterns and cycle because they don't want to learn anything new. All right. So the narc would always talk about how she finally found the most amazing people ever to work for, bragging, trying to, and so she automatically would adopt them as if they were like family. Classic narcissistic abuser behavior right there. Like a gift from heaven almost, yeah. And then always somewhere from, here's that magic number again, somewhere between 3 days to 3 months. Okay. And then she would stop working for them and then talk about how horrible they were and how they were the worst. And she walked away basically. And then fellow warrior said that honestly think that she got fired, and you were spot on again right there, because it usually they say on average, okay, for a narcissistic abuser, those who are more aware of it, okay, those who can actually, believe it or not, they're both out there yet, right? And not only that, within 3 months, okay, a person's true colors always shows. For many of us, we didn't pick up on it because we didn't want to believe it. And eventually, they kept doing the hot, cold. So we were getting trauma bonded. See, this is what she was doing with you. Was trying to get you trauma bonded to her, all right, with all of the crazy making things. And so that really illustrates the true character of things right there. For the 3 days to 3 months after she finds the amazing place to work, amazing place with amazing people to work for. She's already, branded them as family and awfully quick. Okay. And so they, within 3 months, yep, they were able to pick up on something. And yeah, most like that is very true. It's like she got fired. Yeah, it's always possible she may have quit. Because a lot of time when the narcissistic abuser's mask flips, especially around people that they, it's not like, in other words, she, either got fired or quit because they would not let her manipulate them. You see? So that's basically what it was. If a narcissistic abuser can see or sense that they cannot get away with manipulating, let's say, a potential employer or whatever, then they will do that. But that's what they do because they have very, very unhealthy attachment styles, right? That's why they cling on as soon as they meet someone they think could be, the greatest person or whatever, and they, like a suction cup, okay? They latch right on real quick and automatically in their mind think, and then just about 3 months, and usually 3 days, anywhere between 3 days to 3 months. So it would depend on the type of job and that, and how quickly she was going to try to manipulate them. Okay, and they set boundaries. See, a lot of times when we start setting boundaries, narcissistic abusers, that's another real, but they'll run away. Well, not before they try to bust through it. Okay, it depends on the circumstances and stuff too. Okay, so and so it is very possible, fired or quit. All right, and then the fellow warrior remembers the time that the narc had him leave work again to take her to someone else's house, and then had the warrior in their house hanging with her for an hour or so while the kids were at school. And then she had wine out and would drink a lot of it. She said the owner said she could. This again was one who was awesome. Then she would complain how micromanaging they were. Classic narcissistic abuser. Right? And so literally drinking on the job, there you go. If she got caught drinking on the job, got fired. Yeah, right there. There you go. It's kind of like, okay, she's supposed to, where she's supposed to watch children. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So all right. So she stayed in the house waiting for them to get home from school. And then, even though not drinking the whole time, but still that's a no-no. And she didn't want them to know. She didn't want them to know that the fellow warrior drove them. So fellow warrior just drops her off a couple of houses down in the morning, and then goes back later. So if she, because a lot of they've got nanny cams now. So well, they've been out for quite some time. So a lot of parents, and hey, we can't blame them in this day and age, right? So a lot of parents are investing in, which is a good investment, all right? When you're not real sure about it, when you hire a nanny or a caretaker, you're not real sure yet, but you want to give them a try and see that nanny cams. So it's, it's possible that they did have one, and she got caught, doing that drinking on the job where she's supposed to be, yeah, watching after kids. Yeah, that's a big no-no. that definitely. And the fellow warrior said that was a repeating theme. Stop and think about it, patterns, okay? And so early on, the fellow warrior remembered another dot that he connected early on, is how the narc always told him how much her grandmother was her best family member ever and how awesome she was. So one night when the narc was crying over some friend's friend that got severely injured in an accident in which they were probably driving fast. Right. You got that right, fellow warrior. Probably, speeding, definitely. And so luckily, we thank God that they did not. They didn't pass away. They just needed some surgeries and things like that. All right. But the narc was over dramatizing it in a way. I'm not saying it's not traumatizing. She was being over dramatizing. Okay. I might have to look that up, see if that's even a word, but that's what she was doing. She was making a big scene out of something that, they probably didn't even have solid results back, from tests and stuff yet. Right. Okay, so she was blowing it out of proportion, making mountains out of molehills. Okay. Okay, she had higher regard for the dog than she did. Right, right. He said she has higher regard for a dog than any humans. Okay, that's funny, but good point. Okay, and oh, that's another good point about if they did right if they somehow found out. I mean, obviously they did. If she was doing all of that, and then if part of the rules for the job was not to have other people in the house, and then they were caught that. There you go. There you go. She basically, set herself a trap. I mean, she fell in the trap and got caught. That's all. Whenever a narcissistic abuser gets caught, they will run away either with the tail between their legs or huffing and puffing and all of that. And so, okay, said needed to amputate part, but he's okay. All right, well, hey, that's awesome. Okay, but that was she was taking that story and with the accident and blowing it out of proportion so that that was just her acting of trying to seem as though she's a good, genuine good person. All right, and so and the narc was talking to 20 people that day that all that went down while the fellow warrior was there, and the fellow warrior understood, and she was like and the narc said, I told him so many times to stop doing that. She was trying to say that it was her fault, blah blah blah, and saying that she should have done more. And fellow warrior, again, you hit the nail on the head. Trying to play hero. There you go. Yeah, very good, very good. I'm just this is really, I mean, that's quite a thing. All right, so then the narc is calling people after 10 p.m. on weeknight and getting all upset when nobody's picking up their phone. Of course. And so the fellow warrior tells the narc, it is a weekend 10 p.m. People are sleeping already. And then, of course, the narc, I'll bet it's in a low tone, says, oh, okay. Like that, in a very low tone, kind of eerie type way. Okay, at least she said. Yeah. All right, so then the narc decides to call her uncle. Supposedly, another favorite, supposedly, that's the key word right there, another favorite family member. All right, and so this guy works at 6 a.m. and was way asleep already. See, he had his schedule, right? So she got her aunt to answer the phone. And the narc kept saying to put her uncle on the phone. She had to talk to him. She told her, the aunt told the narc that he was asleep and didn't want to wake him. She forced her aunt, his wife, to wake him up. Then she talked about the motorcycle thing, and he told her, the fellow warrior heard it. He said that he was sorry that was going on, but that the narc didn't need to wake the uncle up for that right at that particular moment. And the uncle had to get up early, and the uncle will go by tomorrow after and to talk to her. And the fact that the fellow warrior heard it and the uncle's tone sounded very upset. Well, naturally so. I mean, that right there is a very childish thing. That's another classic example of how the narcissistic abusers, they do not take into account, that other people have lives. I do believe I did a video on that, pre-recorded one on the channel, that narcissistic abusers, they don't think that other people have lives. Because remember, for the narcissistic abuser, it's all about them. I mean, all about them. It has to be all about them, no matter what. And so they don't care if they're going to wake somebody up. That's that is a mindset. Is a mindset that makes them think that they're entitled to get whatever it is they want when they want it. So that's that right there, classic for the narcissistic abuser and what she would do in there. and very childish, by the way, as well. All right, so then the narc calls her grandmother. Remember, a little bit ago said that the narc had already said that her grandmother was a favorite. Okay. All right. Yep. Okay. The one that, right, grandma and one of her favorite ones and a great friend. And the narc kept saying that over and over again. And so the fellow warrior guessed that the grandma answered, and the narc and the grandmother got to talk for a while. And so then the fellow warrior said after they hung up that he was glad that the narc got to talk to the grandma. And I know that the fellow warrior said he knows she is the best or your favorite. It's just the fellow warrior just told the narcissistic abuser what the narcissistic abuser had been telling him. Said, I'm glad you got to talk to them. I know she's your favorite or one of your faves or whatever. And so then what does the narc do? That's right. The narc turns right around and gives the fellow warrior, it's like that evil stare, very soulless indeed, and said something to the effects of, and we're paraphrasing because we're trying to recall exact words, but it was something to this effect that the narc said, "What the is wrong with you, John? Do you know my grandma? Are you two best friends? Your mother is in heaven right now, along with your dad, rolling in their grave, disappointed how awful their son is acting." And there you go. She just that was a math clip right there. And so the fellow warrior, and that's where I picked up that I made a note, because after I read this, that's when I knew. I said, you were dealing with Jezebel. See, every single one of us, yeah, okay, you were dealing with a Jezebel. That's what they do. And so, because he was like, oh my goodness, he's like, holy crap, totally taken aback, right? And so that's why I said you were dealing with the Jezebel. All right. So, of course, the narc quickly realized how out of hand that she got and controlled herself, and turned around and did the fake apology of telling the fellow warrior that she was sorry, didn't know why she said that. That's true. Remember, they don't know why, because they don't know they're being controlled by demon spirits. Okay, that part is true. They really don't know why. Okay, and so and then tell the fellow warrior to please hold her. And she claimed that she did not know what came over her, and so that was just the first time that the mask slipped. So okay, and so fellow warrior said, of course, being a total newbie to women, he thought that she may have liked him. And that's natural. It happened. And so the fellow warrior says knows that women tend to have more emotional roller coasters than guys typically. So, and that's age related too. All right. Because I have seen some 24-year-old males who are very emotional. Okay. Because they walk in their feelings. Just remember that. They walk by sight, not by faith. They walk in their feelings and their emotion. Right. So, but on average, yes, typically women would, at least until we mature and grow and understand we get control of our own emotions, and that we don't turn the holy things over dogs anymore. All right. So, but anyway, at the time, yes, you were aware of that tidbit. There you go. And so our fellow warrior, being the genuine nice guy that he is, just figured that it was pretty severe, but that cognitive dissonance kicks in, and you gave it every excuse under the sun, so to speak, telling himself that that's all it was, which is one of those moments. And but it definitely was. Okay. And then so the narc gives him a hug before leaving right after all of that. Not right after, but shortly thereafter. And then the fellow warrior realized her mask slipped, and then was super nice again for a little while. That's right. Hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. That's that. Yeah, back and forth. Okay, that push pull. Remember, trying to trauma bond you. Okay, so it was seen 4 to 5 times that she got our fellow warrior to take her to the airport, pick her up while he was at work. So that was another thing. She also managed to get that. Okay, and so it happened way too often, and that was goes right in line with what we say about narcissistic abusers a lot of times, because once you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. You know what I'm saying? Once you gave in once, okay, you know, that's one thing, but then you gave in a second time, and then you gave in a third time. So then she realized that, oh, I can just get him to do this anytime I want. You know, that was her thinking, right? Because that's that's how narcissistic abusers think. All right, so the narc. Okay, the narc talk up all your friends. Okay, and the fellow warrior got, if I'm understanding that part correctly, that you got introduced to many of the narc quote unquote friends. Is that correct? Okay, so and then she would again that sociopathic. And it made the fellow warrior wonder why she would even be their friend if she would put him on a pedestal and then turn around and talk crap about him. All right. And so one time there was one of the so-called quote unquote friends of the narc that she knew for a long time, had just gotten out of a rehab, clean and good to go. And so the narc had this so-called friend had him over to the house she was staying at, and the friend seemed like she was being nice, but the narc was treating her friend like total garbage. And the reason for that, fellow warrior, the reason for that is because the friend did something to improve her life. The friend did something that would, better, that she was doing something to better herself. Okay, to get clean and stuff. Because boy, that's not an easy thing to do. And so she went into the rehab, she got herself, cleaned back up and things, so that now she could get back out and live a productive life, okay, and doing things to improve. So that's why the narc, went and snatched, because, oh, this person thinks they're going to be better than me and blah, blah, blah. It's this narc thinking, y'all, all right? That's how they think, that if they're, so this one got out of rehab, and so the narc in her mind said, oh, so this friend thinks that they're all that now and blah, blah, blah. So got to try to tear them down and try and see if the narc can get that friend who just came out of rehab to relapse. Okay, that's what the narc was trying to do right there. Remember, the narc, especially the Jezebel, okay, but they're steal, kill, and destroy. Okay, anything that's trying, anybody who's trying to better themselves, and better their life. Right, the narcs like to try. That's what it's all about. So, okay, and all right. So let's see what else we've got going here. The how. Okay, we're talking about the how. All right, so we'll get back to the friend part here in a minute. All right, the owner. Okay, by the way, the owner of the house wasn't even on. Okay, so the owner of the house didn't even like the friend, the one from rehab, coming in. Okay, so this fits right into the friend there, because she was in rehab, but the narc insisted, albeit the friend was way better off of a person than the narc was, obviously, and that would be another reason why the narc went after her like she did. Okay, so even before the warrior saw her there, the narc had to go. If I'm interpreting this correctly, because I know what you meant, it's she. Okay, but so the narc had you go pick her up from someplace 25 minutes away. Oh no, had you go pick up the friend? A little clarification there. I'm thinking okay, because her car was being worked on. Okay, the same friend. So the fellow warrior agreed to go do that. And then, of course, the narc, who works random part-time jobs and probably wasn't even working, got the fellow warrior to go pick up the friend. Thank you. Okay. And leaving your job again to go do that. Okay. Yep. See, You're very lucky that you had a boss that was was flexible with you on that. Something tells me that boss probably was catching on to what was going on and was just kind of waiting for you to figure it out. So that's what the intuition's telling me, is that the boss was probably waiting on you to figure it out. All right, so okay, yeah. Okay, thank you for clarifying. Okay, so that's what I was trying to get to, that the narc to go pick up her friend. All right, so another time, the fellow warrior remembered this good friend. This good friend, a female friend of hers, was it's an unfortunate circumstance, but getting ready, getting ready to pass away from some kind of disease, and so the narc went to go see her good friend in the hospital. And the narc told the warrior that she hadn't seen that friend in 8 months and barely ever sees her, although the friend's brother owned a boat. All right. So the narc seemed to talk a lot about the boat, how fun it was, and looking forward to it in the summer. So there you go. She was only going to go pay respect to this so-called and call this person a good friend, because that was the connection for her to get to go and enjoy herself on the brother's boat. That was a manipulation. So she was just using that good friend. Yeah. Okay. This goes right into what I just said. Okay, so you're going to confirm that. Funny thing, okay, the boss kept warning our fellow warrior about the girl, and for even with the first 2 days, he had said he had 20 years ago been married to. Okay, see, all right, thank you for that confirmation, because that's why something was telling me that he saw what was going on and was just waiting on you to come to terms with it, figure it out for yourself. We all had to, even though he did try to warn you. So, okay, good. All right. And, that's good to know that there's another one out there who knew what was going on. All right. So, but that's it right there, is that the narc was hanging on to this quote unquote friendship with this person who was passing away because of the brother's boat. Okay. So, and obviously the narc got invited because her friend's brother owned and got her, the friend's brother, the one who got her invited. So, right, so the narc would do that, a whole bunch of stuff, talking to the older brother, doing this huge visible effort to show she did campaign constantly to raise money for the sister's funeral cost. She would, even on the phone one day, just another show of trying to prove that she's a good person. And then, not surprisingly, what happened? Okay, that the narc did not even go to the viewing, didn't even go to the funeral, didn't even have anything to do with it, but yet spent all that time trying to raise fundraising and all of that. Okay, interesting. Yeah. All right. So the same girl who went to that favorite town, okay, of the music genre where all the stars, okay, at least 5 times a year at the drop of a hat. Okay, so the narcissistic abusers will do that. So she will go there 5 times a year at the drop of a hat. Yet she would, not even going to take the time to go to a funeral or pay her respects that way. And so, fellow warrior, again, and you hit another nail on the head. Clearly, the narc was just doing all that to look good, so she could get what she want, partying on the brother's boat. That's right, all the while making it seem like she was caring. Absolutely, very classic. And then the fellow warrior also remembered that the narc always got into fights with her own mother and sister. Classic. Okay, classic. Always getting into fight. And so one time the narc invited the fellow warrior over for a holiday and took him to some family members' house. And well, okay, had you drive, had the fellow warrior drive, but basically the narc invited you for the holiday at her family, and about 30 minutes away. So the fellow warrior said it was a nice time, so it made the fellow warrior feel special. Even the narc even had him sit on her bed again when they got back home. And the fellow warrior said that he almost think it was to show the family she has people who are good people, and because our fellow warrior is a non-drinker, and that's fine. Okay, so it was nice. Okay, although it was nice having a nice dinner. Yeah, I mean, putting on a nice show. They made you feel welcome and all of that, and that's what they do. And there you go, because when your parents passed away, and that gave you a nice way to celebrate what you're still into, that's fine. And so it's like the narc knew that. You know what I'm saying? Like the narc knew that would just further the trauma bonding process a little bit, because it hoping that you will forget about some of her past shenanigans. So let's go pull something nice, right? Yeah. All right. So the fellow warrior picked up on that something wasn't 100% right, though. Although it was a nice time and everything. There you go. Good job, by the way. All right. So as the narc called fellow warrior right at 5 a.m. the next morning to look for a very expensive piece of jewelry she thought may have gotten dropped in his car, to which, of course, he goes and looks 10 times, only to turn around an hour later, and, of course, she found it herself. Okay, a couple of things went on here. Red flag number one, okay, is that she was trying to get you to chase your tail. Classic, okay, tail chasing, okay, and then that was also to get you up, because the day after that, okay, is usually people have that day off work, right? So I'm going to say that what she needed to do was disrupt your sleep. That's number two. Narcissistic abusers are notorious for trying to disturb and disrupt their target's sleep. So like you're sleeping sound and peaceful and all that. You have a good night's sleep after a good meal and a nice time or whatever. So she concocts this story to, zap you right in the middle, I wouldn't say in the middle of, but to disrupt your sleep. And then also to get you to go chasing your tail. She didn't actually lose it in the first place. That's a classic tactic of narcissistic abusers. Okay. And so another time, the narc had the fellow warrior go to her uncle's house a few miles away. All right. And so one of her cousin, as uncle's daughter, her cousin, was around a teenager age at the time. And so, excuse me, and was seemingly not well behaved. Well, I mean, teenager behavior depends. I mean, okay, but supposedly at a friend's house. Okay, so the cousin was supposedly at a friend's house, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm understanding that correctly, fellow warrior. Thank you. And so the narc had the fellow warrior pick them up at this random house to bring her back to her uncle's house while she was staying there. And that the warrior must make them come back because the uncle was so mad. Okay. Yeah, the town with the music fans. Oh, that was going back to when she was right. Okay, we'll drop of a hat go. Okay, so if I'm gonna understand, I'm gonna let the fellow warrior fill in the blanks on that last part there. And so, but ultimately, the fellow warrior went and picked them up, and then got within 1 mile or less of the house, and they asked the fellow warrior to turn into a sub for a second, as he, was thinking they might need something, but instead he was only going a couple miles an hour, like not, just like barely coasting. And they opened the door and jumped out of the car, so the fellow warrior could not officially get them home. All right, so the narc would have been in the car, should have been in the car with him, but did she really expect them to listen to someone they don't know if they weren't going to listen to their own dad and older cousin? There you go. Okay, that's exactly, they're spot on right there. Okay, so we're talking about the cousins. You went to go pick up the cousin. I got it through. Okay, all right, here we go. We're talking about. Okay, so we are talking. Okay, she wanted to have you go pick up two of her cousins. Okay, got it. Okay, gotcha. That's the them that being referred to here. And so, fortunately, the uncle knew this fellow warrior was doing all that he could, and it was mad at both of them, not at the fellow warrior. There you go. But the narc got him to do something that he wasn't even comfortable with. So after that, a couple of times, her younger cousin rode with them, a couple of places here and there, and the narc, apologized for being so rude, but still. And you're right about this fellow warrior. It should have been her picking them up, or at least going with. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that really, seriously, she was trying to dump another way of the narc trying to dump a responsibility onto you that didn't even belong to you. And so now we get to the birthday. Our fellow warrior's birthday comes around. Okay, now we know that narcissistic abusers. So before we get into this part, just why I said I wanted to cover it, we did not know how long this one was going to be. So again, we appreciate y'all for hanging in there, catching this when you can. This is classic. All right. Okay, I thank you very much for y'all's patience when I take a brief moment to wet the whistle there. Okay, so now it's the fellow warrior's birthday, and it was his first one without his parents. Okay, so fellow warrior was standing, he was actually attending and standing up at a wedding 9 hours away for another friend of his, coming home the day before his birthday. So in other words, fellow warrior had already been, on a trip right the day, right before, and then returned home from a 9-hour trip the day before his birthday. So we'll keep that in mind. Okay. So fellow warrior had this pizza place that he likes to go to every year for his birthday, and for over 35 years. And so this time the narc was going to go with him, but the narc said, "Oh, you should also invite some others too." Yeah. Okay. So the fellow warrior said, because she said that would be nice, and that the narc said that she had a lady that she called her second mom, who was nice to me anytime, who was nice to her anytime she came over. So, it was nice to the fellow warrior. Excuse me. Okay, so, all right. The narc calls it the second mom, who was nice to the fellow warrior every time that they would go over. And so the fellow warrior decided to invite his mother's best friend, figuring that would be like your second mom. Okay. Oh, all right. Her second mom, nice to her anytime. So you decided, okay, now let's get this clear. Okay, I got it now. All right. Figuring that could be like your second mom invite to the birthday. If she could invite her second mom, or whoever it is they view as their second mom, so to speak. And of course, her son and his stepbrothers and their wives and kids. So fellow warrior gets to the narc's house to go there, to get everybody together to go. to the pizza place. And then what he came in on was there was a guy there that had been there all day. We're talking about at the narc's house. Not even the boyfriend that was referred to early on, but he knew that the warrior was taking her to a birthday thing for him. The pizza place is a sit down restaurant, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? They're always nice when they have they're famous for their pizza, okay? That's awesome. But the narc would not let that other guy leave, okay? And so the narc said that he should come with us. And fellow warrior said, well, I guess that's fine. I mean, he can come for the fellow warrior's birthday. Why not? So now his vehicle, gets left at the house. And the narc wanted him to look at her mother's house as he was apparently a handyman, okay, and good at repairing things. And so the narc told him that her mom had a couple of things to be fixed, and also said it would be nice that the fellow warrior could meet her mom. And the warrior said, well, this is the way to get in. Stupid of me. I know. That was the fellow warrior thinking to himself. Okay, but it's all good. All right, but now the mother's house is only 10 minutes from the pizza place. So okay. Oh, wait, the narc's house is just 10 minutes from the pizza place, and her mom's house is only about 5 minutes in between. Okay, so the mom's house was in between. And so the narc takes the handyman guy around, showing him every room. And the fellow warrior kept telling her it was time to go. And the fellow warrior even called his friends to let them know that he was running behind and why. Called twice, okay, and called twice. Finally, her mother yelled at her to go. So we wound up being over an hour late for the fellow warrior's own birthday. All right, they all had already eaten, and the fellow warrior's mom's friend and her husband had already left. The narc didn't talk to. She didn't. Oh, you're talking about your mother's friend didn't talk to you for a year. She has her own issues. Okay, well, all right, and so the one closer to your age, like her son and half brother, they all left. All right, so okay, you see I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that was deliberate with the narcissistic abuser. All right, the narcissistic abuser knew, because the narcissistic abuser did not want you to be getting any kind of attention from your side, okay, from your friends, from your family. That was also an attempt to drive a wedge between and starting that subtle process of isolation. See, that's exactly what she was trying to do. All this during the trauma bonding process. She was starting the process of isolation. And so she'll do that by saying, okay, you should invite your family and friends to the birthday. So you do, and knowing they'll show up. And then so what she did is she did a derailment of sorts, okay, with this other guy, just to keep them waiting, all right, and get them to get a little irritated and then leave and things like that. So that's how she's trying to, and obviously it worked on your mother's friend, because didn't talk to you for another year, okay, after that. Okay, that's exactly what she was trying to do. She started to try that. That was that isolation part during the trauma bonding process. All right. So anyway, right. So finally, the fellow warrior, the narc, and the handyman. It's just them three now. There you go. All right. Now it's just them three. Take note of that. It's just them three, because now it's easier to try and triangulate. See, with more people around, okay, that does not mean the narcissistic abuser won't try it anyway, but it's more difficult for the narcissistic abuser to actually be able to get, to triangulate in a crowd. Okay, that's how that works. All right. Okay, so you're talking about, yeah, your mom's friend. Okay. Mom's friend. We were talking about how with the isolation from had anger issue with people, so it worked with that one. Okay, well, I'm not so sure the narcissistic abuser would have known that that person had any anger issues unless somehow y'all talk about it or whatever. I don't know because, but narcissistic abusers do assume that other people have the same issues they do. So there you go. All right, so now the handyman dude and the fellow warrior and the narc get their food, and so yeah, that kind of industry is definitely very lucrative. Absolutely. All right. So at the end, the bill comes, and for all the pizza and for the beverages and things like that, the handyman, the other guy, takes money out of his wallet to pay for the fellow warrior. And the narc yells at him, "Why are you paying for the food?" and saying that John is going to pay for everything. And luckily, at least this guy has some form of honor. Yeah, he sure did. Okay, and he stood up to her as well. He told her, the handyman told her that he said, "I can't let the man pay for his own birthday dinner. Also, I wasn't even supposed to be invited, and he let me come." See, that's basic human decency right there. So yeah. And the narc looked angry with him, even after you said all that. Yep. Sure enough. Classic. Classic. Because she got mad because she wanted to try and see if she could pit you two against each other, and it didn't work. It backfired on her. And so that's why she got so mad. She was trying to see if she could make you jealous, first of all, and since that apparently that wasn't working, if y'all were getting along just fine, and so that wasn't working. So then, because he, out of his, you know, basic human decency and kind heart, he wanted to treat you to your birthday dinner, and that was a show of gratitude for allowing him to come and enjoy a meal and celebrate your birthday. So she got mad about that. And nothing she was doing was working to get you two fighting between each other. But that's exactly what she was trying to do. Okay, so we'll talk about the mom's friend. Okay, the narc didn't know that the mom's friend had anger issues, right? Okay, so then it falls into the category of the fact that the narc just assumed. Okay. All right. And so now fellow warrior says, "Oh, and by the way," okay, that the handyman was, he was one person of two or three over the course of time that had told the fellow warrior that the narc is not what you think she is, and something like that. All right. So, but he did say something to the effect of that the narc isn't someone to be trusted. Okay. So there you go. So in fact, the handyman was one of her so-called best friend's former boyfriend. Actually, and her friend from the stories this guy told is even far more psychopathic than the narc could hope to be. And he also told the fellow warrior that the narc burned something down, truck, house, something or whatever, after he broke up with the narc. And then to top it off, whenever they would go to the narc's house, and she would go into the basement where her bedroom was, and there you go, being a little bit vulnerable like you are. You thought that the narc was trying to make things special for you on your birthday. Nope, you're right. So even though the narc had him down there several times, the narc told the fellow warrior not to come down, but the other guy. And so fellow warrior goes down anyway. That was a bold move, right? Yeah. So it goes down anyway. And, the narc wanted him the handyman guy to give her some back adjustment by lifting her or whatever. And she looked like she was trying to get him to stay the night and told the fellow warrior to leave. Yep, although the handyman told her he wasn't even interested and needed to get back to his dog and whatever the outside, to his pet outside. And no, he did not. I can tell you, he didn't fall for it. And really, at this time, it really doesn't matter now. But she definitely did a number trying to ruin your birthday, absolutely. And so she would turned around and started playing favorites with the handyman, trying to make you feel bad because her triangulation attempt didn't work. Oh, all right, we're gonna. And you didn't say anything. Man, hey, you know what? Okay. Okay, so, yep, jealous at first. Okay, right. But you were able to get it under control. That's what that, yeah. All right, so now with this narc, to add insult to injury on the birthday thing, fellow warrior cousins from another state that year had gotten him a decent dollar certificate to get from StubHub that he hadn't used in several months, and so now it was late. It was later in the summer, and so the fact they got that, it 15 months after, I had a little bit of trouble getting it as they changed the numbers and types. Okay, right. Anyway, because the card good, it doesn't expire, and you get as to go do something. And so the fellow warrior thought the narc would like to go to something like concerts or what have you, and with this certificate. And so she liked concerts, and the fellow warrior told her what was coming up, and so he got tickets. And then, of course, the narc scares him the day before and the day of making it sound like she might not be able to do it. But of course, playing hero saved the day by making sure she could make it. All right, so while they're at the concert, the narc walks away from the seats five times or 20 minutes at a time to go to the bathroom. But then there also was a kid in a wheelchair sitting behind them. Okay, so she put on a show of trying to appear as though she'd be an amazing humanitarian, being I'm going to guess a bit way too nice. Okay, that's classic. Okay, so you did sit in the last rows of the main stage area, so it's an outdoor venue. Okay, but anyway, after it was over, the narc wanted to meet the artist, of course. And so as they were walking towards the stage, okay, but the stage guys were loading and unloading, heavy equipment. And, they said they can't go any further for safety reasons. Well, duh. Okay. They have rules and things they've got to follow as well. But the narc literally told the guy that she knew the Beach Boys and also the 70s band that was on stage, and told them it was because of her they and the other groups got where they are. She made the narc was trying to say that the narc made them, and basically told them how dare they not let her on stage. And whether or not she was a little tipsy, it does not matter. That right there is exactly who's big. It's because of all the other special treatment she was getting from the other music thing, okay, that she would get. She felt she was entitled to that because that's what she gets when she goes to the other location, okay, where she gets all that treatment. So she automatically assumed at this particular concert she was entitled to the exact same treatment. That's what that was. That's her entitlement mindset. So, when on the way out, the narc would talk to many different people, and mostly guys, of course. So she was getting numbers and telling them that she could get them free ticket to go backstage in that other music venue. Where the other guy runs a couple of stages and does things for her. So, yep, she told these other guys that she could do that, and the fellow warrior says, speaking of which, the boyfriend again, you mean the fake one? Okay, all right. Okay. By the way, when our fellow warrior met the narc, it wasn't clear, as we've discussed earlier, right? Okay, so she didn't say anything until 3 months in, right? All right. So now, keeping that in mind, because that's relevant to this next part. So she also kept saying how she was never invited to any of the quote unquote boyfriend family's thing, like vacations or nothing. Like, like she was never invited, and that they were on and off for 5+ years, and he never would marry her. In fact, he hardly took her to anything, and kind of like insinuating like he was hiding her. So she kept making it sound like the fellow warrior was on the verge of maybe hooking up, and that we would likely wind up marrying one day, etc. But there's another thing that she was going on here, fellow warrior, is that she was actually also telling on herself. That she's the one doing the hiding. All right, there you go. That's classic. Okay, it's actually her. So now that the other older man, that the narc, okay, the other older man, we're talking about one of her favorite, are we talking about the one that puts up the stages at that other music venue? What I'm guessing, that older fella, because I remember earlier you mentioned that was his age as well. And so she's in her early 30s at this point. Okay, and her boyfriend, quote unquote, had a favorite band that was performing again in that another state, and this guy was going to get both tickets to also include what she called being on stage. I think that means backstage access. Yes, okay, that's what fellow warrior it is. But she literally told me specifically that the DJ's name and his real name was something else. And then she told the narc told the fellow warrior that she would tell him, DJ, when you meet so and so, you're to tell him you're my cousin so and not my BF. Because if he found out, I would never get backstage access or anything again after these venues. She just told on herself on how she get access to that. Okay, stop and use yourself thinking. Okay, she was doing just what I said. What we were discussing. Her doing the hiding. Okay, right there in plain sight. She's trying to hide the fact that you two were kind of hooked up. Okay, kind of hooking up, whatever. She's trying to hide that fact because that means that she got cut off from certain special privileges that she was putting out for in order to get. That's what she was telling you right there. All right. So, and like you said, that told you all you needed to know. Okay. That there are several times where the fellow warrior would say something and just, and the wrong thing, not even knowing what. And she would text saying not to ever talk to her again or whatever. That's classic as well. All right, so then the fellow warrior would do that, and within a couple of days or so, the narc would come after the fellow warrior to come by as if nothing ever happened and treat the fellow warrior like he was the greatest thing ever again. All right, and then as you did more reflecting, you realized it was always because she needed something. Like after one time she needed help with a quote unquote resume. And so in April, okay, of that year that they hung out, there was one guy, okay, to visit. Okay, now we'll talk about the one guy that the narc, was putting up on a pedestal, was actually now going to come and visit. Okay, going to drive 500 miles and come visit her. Okay, and she said that he had said that he heard great things about the fellow warrior, and fellow warrior heard great things about him. So this guy was not only got her on all those backstage opportunities to meet her favorite music stars, but also got her to the music awards show twice, which is nearly impossible. Remember, with narcissistic abusers, you gotta take what they say with a grain of salt in a lot of ways. Okay, when it comes to things like that. Okay, so whether or not that was actually true, it really doesn't at this point. It definitely doesn't matter. It didn't matter then. It doesn't matter now. But anyhow, this guy come there to visit, and the narc had the warrior take them to the opening day baseball game in downtown where they're at. 30 minutes from where fellow warrior works and lives, and she only and the fact that the narc lived 10 minutes from your work. Okay, so in other words, here she goes again. She got you to leave work again to go and pick them up. So you left work early, go pick them up. Okay, and we presumed that they had the tickets already, but no. There we go. So the narc has the fellow warrior drop both of them off in the street, and she was going to go get the tickets. All right, then later, the narc asked the warrior to come even earlier. He leaves early, and the narc tells the fellow warrior where she is, and had a little bit of difficulty getting there with the construction and so forth. And so, had to pay to park and all of that simply to go get them. All right, so fellow warrior saw her in what lasted like maybe 5 minutes, and she had a disagreement with the other guy on whether she cares about him or not. The narc then walked out on both of them and just randomly walked in the street. She wouldn't pick up her phone. The warrior didn't want to just leave her there, obviously. As she just left this guy who just came 500 miles to visit, stuck in the middle of the city. And so the fellow warrior offered him a ride back, but he decided he wanted to take he'd take another form of transportation. So he also told the fellow warrior, he also told the fellow warrior that some guy told her to come up and walk away from him even while they were out for the day. And he showed me the signal the guy made, which someone, that the guy knew a long time ago, recovered from a drug addiction. And he said that it's a sign. Okay, so the fellow warrior, it's a sign for cocaine. So some guy lured her away from even for a short period, like giving her coke. So if we weren't there, we're not gonna bear false witness, but that kind of does seem what it sounds like. Because when a person is hopped up on cocaine, anyway, I'm not going to do a whole big toxicology lesson in this. You all just know that her erratic behaviors, it's just psychoactive substances will exacerbate, which means makes worse narcissistic abusers' behaviors. Okay, it will. And I know I said that. I believe I mentioned that in last week's podcast on Tuesday. I believe it's the latest episode. And so y'all can always go right on the website and take a listen to it. It's like number 21 or 22. It's up there. But I had mentioned that because that was a question that I got from the audience about whether or not, when the abuser is hopped up on, say a psychoactive substance, really we're talking about the cocaine, marijuana, those types of things that are really, I'm not saying, alcohol is also, that's why, it depends, you want to be mindful, obviously, we don't want to do anything in excess, but it takes, it depends on the type, but the cocaine is very fast. That's what I'm trying to get out. Okay. Whereas, because there's a thing called duration of effect. And so, because within a short amount of time, with fellow warrior, will go try to help. She was going to go get these tickets and all of that was going on. A very short amount of time. Cocaine is pretty quick. Okay, it takes effect pretty quick. Whereas for now, marijuana takes a little bit longer. It's quick. But it's not as quick as cocaine, so to speak. I mean, they're close because it's got to cross what is called the blood-brain barrier, quickly. And so it will pronounce the narcissistic abuser's behaviors. So even though she's naturally, contradictory and all of that, you take a hit of something like that, like cocaine or whatever, it's just going to make that particular behavior 10 times worse. All right, so there's your connection there. All right, so okay, yep. So there's the guy that made the trip, 500-mile trip all the way over to see her, told fellow warrior that he was not going to talk to her again ever. And the narc also said awful things about how awful he was in reality and stuff like that. So, okay, sure enough, they kept talking many times after that. It is highly likely that that guy, they obviously have a history, so it's possible that he was just didn't know it, but he trauma bonded. Okay, he was trauma bonded. That's the way it is, and so anyhow, yep, and so yep, because you said the guy didn't know how to deal with her. And he had told fellow warriors specifically on that day that with her, everything is always your fault. Nothing's ever her fault, ever. And okay, that right there says he sees it, but he's trauma bonded. Okay. So there was another fellow that was in the same age range as the guy that made the trip and that lived in the same city they all lived in. And so our fellow warrior so you and the narc went to this other guy's house and you met him. It's an awful lot of attempts at triangulating you. Classic. That's exactly what she was trying to do. All right. So the next time you all went to this other guy's house, the narc and fellow warrior were supposed to go to another thing that she wanted to go to in another town, but the narc wanted to stop by his house to do something for the dog, whatever it was. All right. Okay. Then, see, you ended up staying. And so then you ended up going somewhere else and then somewhere else. Yep. Classic, because you two had, it sounds like, because you two had do this thing that she wanted to do, okay, because you had agreed to it. So now she's in control of switching it up. Oh, I changed my mind. Don't want to go there now, because now she got you like a puppy dog on a leash kind of thing. All right. So anyway, so after all of that, you finally, and then that got home. I said, wait. So we talk about the guy, because you've got it spelled H-E. Then he got home, and the narc wouldn't leave. It was a work day for you. So we're talking about that dude's house, right? So you guys kind of went. She wanted to do something for the dog, whatever it was, and then after that, he wasn't home. Got it. Okay, took me a second, but he wasn't home. Okay. And now he gets home. Now that he's home, she doesn't want to leave. And it's a work day for you. So she knew that. Okay. All right, so you were there till 2 a.m. So they're that way that the narcissistic abuser is trying to disrupt your sleep pattern. It's very slow and subtle in a way, although very quick, just over a year. But she's trying to disrupt your sleep, because narcissistic abusers know that if we don't have a clear head, that we're going to miss red flag. So she said, and so the narc said, told the fellow warrior just to go home and pick her up in the morning. Right. And so the narc was literally on the bed. They were both clothed, whatever, and his arm was under, and his arm was under. Okay, his arm was under hers, whatever. They were just pals. Okay, and you were already right. You were already tired. See. Okay, so. All right, so he goes to get a fellow warrior, went to get her the next morning. She was already gone and didn't tell him. Classic as well. Okay, and so fellow warrior was worried a little bit, but just another thing. Yep, just another thing to do. This triangulating. That's exactly right. And so, and then sometimes she called the narc call. Sometimes, the narc would call the fellow warrior up at 3 a.m. to get her from a bar she was at 18 minutes from his house. Okay, and you left. Unfortunately, fellow warrior said, "Unfortunately, I left the phone on." And she would call, 4 straight times, 20, and to disturb your sleep. Yep, exactly. To disturb your sleep, and get to go pick her up. I say so. She would do the seducing like things, absolutely, and never let her, and never go anywhere with it. Right? Okay. And then the narc would tell the fellow warrior that something was wrong with him for trying, and not very nice of him. Right? And then one time the narc wanted the fellow warrior to put her paycheck in the bank. Okay, let's just say that. The one that he always went to always needed an envelope. Okay, so the warrior tells her that she should do it, and he was unfamiliar with that way, but the narc made him do it anyway. And so the fellow warrior made an error, and it got caught up, and instead of telling the bank, she denounces the fellow warrior on Facebook. Her second mother literally set her straight on the same page. And also the woman who knew her, the narc, since they were in elementary school, completely cut the narc out of out of her life over the past few years as well, and told me so many similar things. And while she would still be her mom's friend, she would never talk to the narc again, and still hasn't. So, yep. And then finally in November of that same year, it just the narc, our fellow warriors decided enough was enough, and that's typically what happened over a period of time. That right there was a classic run-of-the-mill Jezebel that just goes around pushing people away and stuff. So we know she's going to perish. Okay, she is going to perish. No question about it. Let me go ahead before we got one page left now. All right, and I'm telling you, if this did not read like a Lifetime movie, what does? Okay, so let me catch up on a few things, see what else the fellow warrior wants to add. Okay, okay, and then also in April, the stage manager, guys. So thank you for that clarification on that part of the story. All right, she took pictures. Okay, thank you for that clarification right there. Okay, she took pictures from the award show and posted them, but he did have access, and oh, absolutely, she was using him for that. Absolutely. 100%. And this is another good point. There you go. Because remember, that's part of the trauma bonding process, when the narcissistic abuser can trick their target into actually going through with and having that kind of engagement. And so That's just another way that the narcissistic abuser gets in there. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The second mom is the one. Okay. All right. So we go. Okay, back on that. Okay, right where literally set her straight on the same page when because she was trying to denounce you for making an error, but because you already told her that uh, you were not familiar with that particular technique kind of thing, and that she should totally have done it herself. Absolutely, 100%. Okay, so fellow warrior, forget exactly what it was, but the narc did the same thing again. Got the fellow warrior all excited, and for about 1 or so month, it was progressively getting worse and worse. And then it just got faster. Anyway, the fellow warrior finally got mad and told her on Facebook Messenger that he wasn't going to put up with that anymore, and said to stop blaming him for the stuff that she did. All right, that is another classic red flag right there. When the narcissistic abuser blames their target for the things that they did. Okay, that's a classic. Okay, red flag. So always be vigilant. If anyone out there is getting blamed for doing something that the abuser did, you know full well that you didn't do that. Okay, that's a classic tactic they used. Okay, and it was just or at least something, but something along those lines. Yeah, because that's classic what they do. And then of course the narc turned it around on him as always, saying that he was the one who did it. That cognitive dissonance. See, she was trying to. And so the fellow warrior decided to say, okay, well, there are 7 examples, and what he did is he called her out using some of the things that we discussed in this testimony, and he picked the biggest one. All right, and then over the next 3 days, fellow warrior receives 100 phone calls along with voicemail, 50 emails, hundreds of texts constantly, because once you called her out on some of those biggest things, it panicked her. Right, that's what happened. It panicked her because she'd been exposed now. Okay, all of those messages and stuff was just trying to make you, the fellow warrior, sound like he was the worst human ever to live, disgusting, gross, blah blah blah. Like, I mean, she was throwing it all. That's what narcissistic abusers do. Once we do the discard before they are ready, this is exactly what they do. All right, and so trying to make you think all of that, okay, that you called her out on was your fault and stuff like that. She was totally innocent and everything, and that the fellow warrior misinterpreted everything. See, that's another way. See, yeah, we know that narcissistic abusers. Yeah, there you go. That's a good point right here during this the kind of smear campaign, pretty much. This is when the mask completely and utterly fell off. Exactly when he said he was done. Yep, that's exactly right. That's why I also said that in one of the podcasts as well, because somebody had asked that when the most common times are that the mask will slip, and it's usually when we call them out or we say we're done. That's when that mask just fully comes off. Okay, and so yep. But of course, and actually, you felt more harassed than ever. So she would put text together that would read something like, okay, because we don't recall everything, but this is very common. Okay, the narc say something like, and many of us have actually heard these too. Yeah, all right. It would read like the narc. This is the narc speaking. I hate you. You're dead to me. Like your mom and dad are dead. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should do yourself a favor and take a knife to your throat. I wish you were dead. Followed by more If I ever saw you again, I would knock your teeth out. I am a big girl, and I would do the time in jail. Okay, so there's all that those threatening messages, and we know that depending on who it's coming from or whatever, that a lot of times when they do that, they're just bluffing. Okay, because now that because once we realize and they've been exposed, they can threaten us all they want to, with what, bodily harm or whatever. And by the way, that is punishable by law for anybody that needs that assistance. That's punishable by law. I don't care if it's a female narc or a male narc. It does not matter. If it's coming out of their mouth as a threat, those are punishable by law. Okay. So and she always the narc. Okay, so talk about being a big girl. Okay, so she's tall, but that's no biggie. Her biggest thing, she always would talk about how sad it was that the fellow warrior's parents were deceased, and and how she pretended to cry on his behalf. And so here's the final cherry on top: classic narcissistic abuser behavior. All right, so the fellow warrior loaned during all of that. Okay, the fellow warrior loaned a sentimental item. Okay, that belonged to one of his parents. Okay, and so he loaned it to the narc's uncle while he was in some sort of surgery. Okay, and so his house might have been a little messy, but and so we know that that he did take that home. That was sentimental. The narc abuser, the Jezebel, knew that it was sentimental to the fellow warrior, and so he asked if he could get that back. And of course, what the narc said the narc told the fellow warrior that she told aunt uncle about him, and now they hate him, fellow warrior, even more than she does, and good luck with that. Okay, of getting the radio back. All right, so classic. The fellow warrior never went. All right, so she ruined something that she knew meant a lot to the fellow warrior. They do that a lot. If they know that you have something that's sentimental, because a lot of people, you have something that's sentimental that means something to you, okay, that brings you joy, right? It brings you happiness, right? That's what they do. A narc abuser will, if you loan it or whatever, or if they get access to it, they do that. Okay, they don't want you. They don't want anybody else to have anything that brings them joy or happiness. Okay, never forget that. All right, because things that are sentimental to an empath going to bring that empath joy and peace and happiness, things like that. Of course, we get that from the God spirit. Never forget that comes from the God spirit within. So, it meant something. It doesn't matter how much it cost or whatever. It meant something. That's all it takes. All right, for the narc. And so here we go. The narc did get the fellow warrior a birthday gift. It was a certificate to a place that is 45 minutes away. And in the card, it said, classic, we should go there together. Then way back. All right, and so the narc literally brought the gift half for herself and his son. Exactly. All right, well, she wanted it back. Okay, and the fellow warrior said he shouldn't have, but decided at that point just to get her off his back. Okay, you see, that's classic. All right, and so it was not a whole lot, and he figured he'd probably never go all the way out there anyway, so he mailed it back to her and then blocked her forever. And then on a final note with this one, that on the holiday, that one time the narc bought him a specific dollar amount shirt. And he noticed how she would give gifts to others that were way beyond the amount that she should. and it was to look good. Bingo. That's what it's all about. Okay, it's just trying to make themselves look good. That's what narcissistic abusers do. Okay, so forgive me if I'm trying to put in the papers in front of y'all there, but that's classic. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yes, fellow warrior. Thank you. I was That's your thingy. I didn't want to, for you to share. If you wanted to share that with everybody else, what the thing behind the radio was, um, I wanted to leave that up to you. Okay. I wasn't gonna overstep or anything like that. Just getting to the point, the heart of the matter. Um, Well, not necessarily. Okay, see, because as a Jezebel, she's not. She way past that right there. As a Jezebel, she's way past that. Way past. She's gone. She's done. She's done. And we appreciate you. We appreciate you sharing that, fellow warrior. Because it kind of like just a little bit of a sweet part of the story, there. Although not what happened to it wasn't so sweet, but I want to go ahead and give you a little bit of encouragement here towards the end of this one because you know that that thing that's sentimental to you, God has a way of bringing things back. Okay, so you never know that one day, okay, that when God jumps into action and stuff, you may find that radio, on your porch or in your mailbox or something like that. Okay, because God has a way of um, restoring everything, right? So to help him with that peace and joy, happiness, and things like that, he'll restore that, and it'll show up one day, unexpectedly, of course. So 'cause God works that way. He has his own little, his own little mystery, and so sometimes things that the enemy tried to steal, kill, and destroy, or what have you, because there's several of us who are living testimony to that. Uh-huh. That where it may have been a few years or what have you down the road, but God restored it and we got it back. So there you go. Okay. So I just, that might happen. You never know that. That might actually happen. And okay, yeah, because she's a Jezebel, he's a Jezebel. Perfect match. And I don't mean perfect as in, I'm just saying, but that is what happened. You know what I'm saying? That is what happened. They do. Like I've said before on other videos, they definitely that's what they end up with. It's the exact replica of themselves as a mate later on, you know. So that's why Jesus tells us, let the dead bury the dead. Let them take each other out because that's what's going to happen as God continues to level us up and keep us out of it, and away from that. And I mean, sometimes we're still we got to navigate through, yes, but as we continue going forward and we watch, they're just going to take each other out. Okay, and that's God's master plan. See, let the dead bury the dead means spiritually dead, bury the spiritually dead. Let them be. Okay, and just keep on keeping on. That's all we can do. And so we just wanted to go ahead and do this and give y'all that final testimony. And like I said, we did not know how long it was going to take, and so I figured I thought it would take at least a couple of hours with the interaction and feeling. So thank you, fellow warrior, again. And yes, okay, they both are psychopaths. Jezebel, yeah, absolutely, 100%. So, because by the way, that's what the ex psychopath roommate ended up with. His pretend mistress, they were both Jezebel, both psychopaths. So, but hey, that's what they end up with. Okay, yep. That's okay. On a final note, fellow warrior said that that particular situation, and that's usually how it goes for all of us. Okay, that is usually how it goes for all of us. Led him to start watching lots of videos and reading thousands of pages of information for over a couple of years to get caught up on narcissistic abuse and narcissism, and then eventually you come out to realize, okay, hold up a second, there's a little bit more going on than that, So on the spiritual side of things. So that's exactly right, and that's how it goes for each and every one of us. Whether it be researched with books or what have you, or and googling their behaviors and stuff like that. Absolutely, that's how we connect the dots, and that's how we start. That's how we start the healing process. By the way, it's a big way. Yes. All right. So I want to say, again, thank you, fellow warrior, for sharing that testimony. Going forward, as you well know, these videos are evergreen, and so anytime God awaken another one from the narcissistic abuse, yes, another chosen one, absolutely. These videos will be available for them to learn about and to help them get a handle on the red flag. And so we are very grateful to you all who share your testimony to help others, survivors, and things like that with their healing process. And it helps to give them confirmation. It helps to give them that confirmation they're looking for. Did they really see this? Did they really hear that? Did that really happen? Okay. And to know that they're not alone, and that there's a lot of survivors who have seen a lot of the same stuff. And yep, that's how it works. So you know, yep, and that is bingo. One more final note. Bingo. That's exactly why you were able to figure out your psychopath neighbor a lot quicker. Absolutely, because you did all that research and things like that, and you started to remember things. So hold up a second. That's the God spirit reminding you. That's the God spirit in you, like telling you, okay. All right, but that would just have one more little lesson that God needed you to learn there. Okay, that's all that was. But you able, and so that's how God hastens us on His time. You see, because you're able to pick up on it quicker. And so by doing that, it just gets quicker and quicker and quicker going forward. Oh yeah, absolutely. It gets quicker going forward. Like, and to that point where to walk into, for example, real quick, y'all, yesterday when I went to pick up my dinner, walked in and it didn't take a second. I mean, this one really didn't even have to open her mouth for me to know she was not, she was a narc. I could tell by her demeanor. Okay, very stuck-upish in many ways, and but it was a certain thing she did that just confirmed it. Being very snotty in the tone, and very very snobbish, very snotty. And so I was like, So it gets to that point, you all. All right. So for anybody who has not gotten there yet, as always, you got to hang in there, because that is how fast you'll be able to pick up on it. And you're with the empathy switch off too. Okay. Remember, we learn how to control that. And so with that mental empathy switch off, we're able to go into a place and instinctively pick up on it, because we'll know behavioral wise, what we're looking at, because we're familiar with it now, right? Not familiar spirit that God tells us not to associate with. No. I'm just saying you are familiar with the behavioral characteristics that go along with the narcissistic abusers, even the covert one. And so that's why it takes time, but God will get you there quicker and quicker and quicker. Okay. To where you'll be able to spot them. So that's it for this one, you all. Again, a huge thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us, whether you're live or on the replay. And if you have any questions, as always, don't hesitate to reach out. All right. That's what we're here for. All right. Sending love and light to all fellow warriors. Thank you for watching and for your support. Until next time, all right, you all, let's show some gratitude to the Heavenly Father, and you keep being you in Jesus' name. Amen.